On my wedding day, my bride ran. She cried that she could never forget the one that got away and begged me to let her go. I became the laughingstock of New York City. 3 years later, she came back with tears in her eyes, kneeling before me. Landon, I was wrong. Can we get married again? Please. I just smiled, wrapping an arm around my wife, now 6 months pregnant, and whispered in her ear, Honey, it's getting chilly. Let's go home. Some things, once you throw them away, you can never get back. Landon, I'm so sorry. Claire Winters was wearing a couture wedding gown. Her makeup was flawless, but tears were streaming down her face, a picture of tragic beauty. She grabbed my hand, the cold diamond of her engagement ring digging into my palm. I still can't forget him. Please, let me go. For my sake, and for yours. The grand ballroom was packed. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Camera flashes from the press went off like strobes, threatening to burn our faces right off. Me, Landon Hayes, the nominal heir to the Hayes Corporation, a man everyone saw as a spoiled playboy, was being left at the altar. The reason? She was chasing after her true love. I was officially the biggest joke in the city. I could hear the hushed whispers from the crowd, buzzing like a swarm of flies in my ears. I knew it. There's no way Claire Winters would actually settle for a screw-up like him. What does the Hayes family have besides money? Landon is a lost cause, can't hold a candle to his father. Well, this is a total humiliation. Claire's parents, their faces pale with fury, rushed forward to drag her away. But Claire clung to me, as if I were the villain in this drama. Landon, say something. Don't you love me? If you love me, you'll let me go. I looked at her, at the face I once thought I'd look at for the rest of my life, and felt nothing. It was like looking at a stranger. To be honest, I wasn't surprised at all, because I'm not from this world. 3 days ago, I was a corporate drone, burning the midnight oil for a measly paycheck. A car crash sent me straight into the pages of a power fantasy novel I'd been reading, reborn as this pathetic side character who happened to share my name. My entire purpose in the story was to be a tool, get dumped by my fiancé to make the real hero look good, then spiral into depression and die a meaningless death. And Claire, of course, was that fiancé. According to the original plot, today she would ditch me, the playboy heir, for her supposed true love, the novel's protagonist, and run off into the sunset. The original Landon was supposed to have a breakdown, go on a crazed revenge spree, and end up crushed by the hero like a bug. But I'm not the original Landon anymore. And I'm tired. I spent my last life grinding myself to the bone. This life, I have more money than I could ever spend and a massive business empire at my fingertips. All I want to do is check out and just enjoy myself. Good food, fine whiskey, working out, traveling. Isn't any of that better than playing these stupid power games with a bunch of trust fund babies? Claire leaving me at the altar wasn't a humiliation. It was my get-out-of-jail-free card. I looked at her tear-streaked face and finally made my move. I gently pried her fingers from my arm and took the microphone from the officiant. The room fell silent. Everyone was waiting for the explosion, for the public meltdown. Claire watched me nervously, her body trembling slightly. I cleared my throat and broke into a brilliant smile. Ladies and gentlemen, friends. My apologies. It seems we've had a slight change of plans for today's wedding. I paused, my gaze sweeping over Claire, then settling on her nervous but triumphant true love standing in the audience. Miss Winters has found her soulmate. She's chasing true love, and personally, I respect that. I wish them both the best. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd. Claire's eyes widened in disbelief, stunned that I would let her go so easily. I ignored her and continued. So, the wedding might be off, but you all came here, and I don't want you to leave empty-handed. I declare that this reception is now an all-out party. Open bar, all-you-can-eat feast, everything's on me. And as a token of my apology, every guest here will receive a personal gift delivered to your homes by my assistant. I snapped my fingers. My assistant, Peterson, appeared at my side instantly, as if he'd been waiting in the wings. He handed me a black card. Use my card, I told him. Tell the hotel to break out the best of everything they've got. Top-shelf liquor, the finest food. No one goes home sober tonight. With that, I shrugged off my stifling tuxedo jacket, tossed it onto the floor, and unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of my dress shirt. I walked over to Claire. She flinched and took a step back. I smirked, pulling the groom's wedding band from my breast pocket. I opened my palm to show it to her. Won't be needing this. I let it drop. The ring clattered on the polished marble floor, rolling away into the silence. Miss Winters, I wish you happiness. Without another glance, I turned and walked off the stage, leaving her in the entire room with a view of my back. Behind me, the dead silence was broken by an even more ferocious wave of gossip. I knew that from this day forward, the name, Landon Hayes, would be synonymous with coward and laughingstock. But who cares? What other people think has nothing to do with me. I just want to live my life on my own terms. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not having to do what you don't want. The moment I stepped out of the ballroom and into the fresh air, I felt like I could finally breathe. Peterson followed a few steps behind me, hesitating. Sir, where are we going now? I stretched, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. Home. And after that, the office. You handle the office. I cut him off. It's not the end of the world. From now on, I have only one job. Enjoy my life. Everything else is on you. Peterson froze, then gave me a deep, formal bow. Yes, sir. I saw a spark in his eyes. The thrill of a master chess player finally unleashed, the excitement of having a grand stage all to himself. See, everyone has their place. My place was never meant to be in a corporate battlefield. My place is on a lounge chair, sipping a good drink, watching my people conquer empires for me. Now, this is the kind of power fantasy I was looking for. Chapter 2, The Wedding Fiasco, was old news in a heartbeat. For me, it barely made a ripple. Claire got her wish and ended up with her true love, a guy named Ethan Miller. The tabloids were filled with stories of their brave romance against all odds, which naturally involved dragging my name through the mud as the jilted trust fund kid over and over. The comments on my Instagram and Twitter were a cesspool of mockery and insults. Hashtag Landon got played even started trending. I couldn't have cared less. I blocked everyone, left all my group chats, and put my phone on permanent do not disturb. Blissful silence. I began my master plan of doing absolutely nothing. First step, remodel my mansion. I tore out the enormous, cold, postmodern living room and had it redesigned as a traditional Japanese garden. A small bridge over a koi pond, stone lanterns, a tea pavilion, the works. I converted an entire floor into a state-of-the-art gym, complete with every machine imaginable and a full-length lap pool. The expensive wines in the cellar? I gave them all away and replaced them with a collection of top-shelf whiskeys, bourbons, and tequilas I'd sourced from all over the world. I even set up a small distillery in one of the rooms to experiment with my own spirits. My days were ridiculously peaceful. I'd wake up naturally, hit the gym for an hour to feel the burn, and watch my abs and V-line get more defined by the day. After a long soak, I'd decide what culinary masterpiece to tackle for lunch. French, Italian, Japanese, molecular gastronomy. I rotated through them all. In my past life, I was a foodie with no time or money. In this life, I hired a Michelin-star chef to give me private lessons. Afternoons were for relaxing in my garden, sipping tea, reading a book, or working on my latest batch of gin. In the evening, I'd have a glass or two of my own creation, watch a movie, and be in bed by 10. It was heaven on earth. As for the company, I left it all to Peterson. John Peterson. He had been my father's most trusted man for over a decade, brilliant and fiercely loyal. In the original novel, he became so disgusted with the original Landon's self-destruction that he quit in despair. He was then poached by the hero, Ethan Miller, and became the cornerstone of Ethan's business empire. This time, I gave him my complete trust and total authority. My only job was to steer the ship, occasionally giving him a prophetic tip based on my knowledge of the novel's plot when he was facing a tough decision. For example, a few days ago, Peterson called me in a panic. Sir, we have a crisis. Our main overseas chip supplier just unilaterally broke our contract. The entire production line is down. We're losing hundreds of millions a day. I was in the middle of perfecting a beef Wellington, my hands covered in flour. I put him on speaker, leisurely scoring the puff pastry. Oh, you mean momentum chips? Peterson was audibly stunned on the other end. Sir, how did you know? I smiled. Of course I knew. This was the first major trap the hero, Ethan Miller, set for the original Landon. Using his connection with Claire, he'd gotten to an executive at Momentum Chips and orchestrated the breach of contract, hoping to deal a fatal blow to Hayes Corp. "What's the panic?" I said, sliding the Wellington into the oven and listening to the satisfying sizzle. My mood was excellent. "Right now, I want you to contact a domestic company called Apex Devices. They just developed a new technology, better performance than Momentum, but they lack the capital for mass production. Tell them Hayes Corp is offering a full buyout. Give them whatever they ask for. I have only one condition. Get our production line back up and running within a week." The line was silent for a good 10 seconds. "Sir, I've heard of Apex, but are they reliable? This is an enormous risk." "Just do it," I said, pulling out the golden brown pastry and starting on the red wine reduction sauce. "If anything goes wrong, I'll take the fall." "Yes, sir." Peterson hung up. I poured the hot sauce over a slice of the beef. The aroma was divine. I took a bite. Perfect. A week later, Peterson called again, his voice trembling with excitement. "Sir, it worked. Apex's technology is unbelievable. Not only is the production line restored, but our product performance has improved by 30%, and our costs are down by half. The new orders are flooding in." "Right, got it," I said calmly, feeding my koi in the garden. "Sir, you're a genius. By the way, Momentum Chips is now begging us to reconsider. Their stock has plummeted. Also, it looks like Winters Enterprises has several projects stalled because of the chip shortage. They've taken a massive hit." I tossed another pinch of food into the water, watching the fish swarm. "Oh, Winters Enterprises, Claire's family company. Many of their projects relied on the Hayes Corp supply chain. If my supply stopped, so did theirs. Sir, should we?" Peterson asked, fishing for instructions. "Ignore them," I said flatly. "Let them sink or swim on their own. We just need to focus on our own business." "Understood." After hanging up, I leaned back in my lounge chair, watching the clouds drift by. I felt incredible. See, winning by doing nothing is just that easy. I didn't have to lift a finger, just drop a few words of guidance at the right moment. My team would then move heaven and earth to get it done, motivated and energized. The feeling was, in a word, awesome. Just when I thought my peaceful, God-tier life would continue uninterrupted, someone unexpected stumbled into it. Chapter 3. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was taking my usual walk around the neighborhood. Our gated community was so lush with greenery, it felt like a private national park. As I neared the man-made lake, I heard the frantic meows of a cat. I followed the sound and found a fluffy, snow-white ragdoll cat clinging pitifully to the trunk of a tall magnolia tree, too scared to move up or down. Beneath the tree, a young woman in a white sundress was pacing in circles. "Cotton Candy, come down. It's dangerous up there." Her voice was sweet and soft, with a hint of tears. She tried to climb the tree herself, but her dress made it impossible. After a few failed attempts, she slid back down. "You walked over. Need a hand?" The young woman turned around, and I was struck by her clean, delicate features. She had huge, clear eyes that seemed to hold the light. Her skin was so fair, it was almost translucent in the sun. She looked at me, paused for a second, and then her face lit up. "Oh, could you please let me get my cat? Her name is Cotton Candy, and she's afraid of heights." I glanced up at Cotton Candy, who was staring back at me with big, sapphire blue eyes full of suspicion. "No problem at all." I took a few steps back, got a running start, and leaped, grabbing a low-hanging branch. Years of hitting the gym paid off. With a few powerful pull-ups, I was halfway up the tree. The woman below let out a tiny gasp, her hand flying to her mouth. I reached the cat in seconds. The little fur ball was terrified, its fur standing on end. It hissed at me. I didn't rush it. I just held out my hand for it to sniff. "Easy there. I'm taking you back to your mom." My voice was low and calm. Maybe it was my tone, or maybe it was just scared, but the cat hesitated, then cautiously nudged its head against my palm. I scooped it into my arms and jumped lightly from the tree, landing solidly on my feet. "Here you go." I handed the cat back to her. "Thank you." "Oh, thank you so much." She hugged the cat tightly, burying her face in its fur and showering it with kisses. "Cotton Candy, you scare me to death. Don't you ever run off like that again." The cat purred contentedly in her arms, rubbing its cheek against hers. The two of them together looked like something out of a painting. I watched her, and for some reason, my heart started beating a little faster. There was a pure, clean quality about her, like a mountain spring or a summer breeze. Just looking at her felt calming. Sir, thank you again, really. My name is Sophia Reed. I live just over there, she said, pointing to a nearby villa. Landon Hayes. Sophia's eyes went wide. You're the Landon Hayes? Her reaction surprised me. You know who I am? Yes. She nodded enthusiastically, a cute blush rising on her cheeks. My parents have mentioned you. They said you're a very impressive person. Impressive? I raised an eyebrow. That was a new one. Wasn't the whole city calling me a pathetic loser? My dad said the Hayes Corp stock has gone up several points since you took over. And he said you were incredibly forward-thinking to invest in Apex devices. Her eyes were sparkling with genuine admiration. It clicked. Her family was obviously well off, important enough to be privy to that level of business intelligence. It was nothing, I said dismissively. To thank you, could I treat you to dinner sometime? Sophia asked, clutching her cat a little shy. My mom makes the most amazing tiramisu. I was about to refuse, but looking into her hopeful eyes, some strange impulse made me nod. Sure. And just like that, I got roped in by a cat and met its owner, Sophia. I later learned that the Reed family was even more prominent than the Winters family. Sophia's father was a titan of industry, a contemporary of my own father, and she was their only daughter, the apple of their eye, a true princess. She was innocent, kind, and completely sheltered from the world, like a blank canvas. Being with her was easy, relaxing. We started seeing more of each other. Sometimes her cat would wander into my garden. Sometimes she'd show up at my gym with homemade snacks while I was working out, a surprise visit. She'd sit by the edge of the pool, dangling her slender white legs in the water, watching me swim laps. When I pull myself out, water dripping down my abs, she'd blush and hand me a towel, her eyes inevitably drifting down to my V-line. One time, she finally worked up the courage to reach out and poke on my abs. Whoa, it's so hard. She looked like a child who had discovered a new continent, her eyes wide with wonder. My whole body tensed, and a jolt of heat shot through me. I caught her hand. Don't touch, I said, my voice suddenly hoarse. Her face turned scarlet. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't mean to. Seeing her looking so flustered and adorable, I couldn't help but smile. I realized I was starting to enjoy seeing her blush, and I was starting to look forward to our daily encounters more and more. The feeling was new. I'd never felt it in my last life, and it was a first in this one, too. Maybe having a cute neighbor like her wouldn't be a bad addition to my quiet life. Chapter 4, my relationship with Sophia, heated up quickly, based on a silent, mutual understanding. She was like a little ray of sunshine, slowly but surely brightening up the lazy, aimless life I'd planned for myself. She would drag me to the grocery store. I'd push the cart while she flitted between the aisles like a happy little bird, gleefully dropping her favorite snacks into my cart. One time, she was trying to reach a bag of chips on the top shelf, standing on her tiptoes, her arms stretched out, but she just couldn't get it. I walked up behind her, my body pressing against hers as I reached over her head and easily grabbed the bag. My chest was flush against her back. I could smell the faint scent of jasmine in her hair and feel her stiffen and tremble slightly. I leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Here you go." As I placed the bag of chips in her arms, I gave into an impulse and stole a quick kiss from the corner of her mouth. Her face instantly turned a shade of red, so deep you could feel the heat. She just stood there, clutching the chips like a little fool, completely frozen. I watched her, unable to hide the grin spreading across my face. We'd also sit and drink tea together in my Japanese garden. I'd tell her secondhand stories about corporate battles, all of which were just plot points from the novel. She'd listen, captivated, her eyes full of stars. "Landon, you know so much. You're even smarter than my dad." She was never shy with her compliments or her admiration. It was a strange feeling. I hadn't actually done anything, but in her eyes, I was some kind of all-powerful hero. One day, Peterson brought me a file. It was a bid proposal for a huge parcel of land in the Southport Development Zone. I glanced at it and tossed it aside. You're bothering me with something this small? Peterson gave a wry smile. Sir, this isn't small. Several major players have their eye on this land, especially Winters Enterprises. Oh, that piqued my interest. Claire wants it. Yes. We've heard their cash flow is tight lately, and they desperately need this project to recover. Ms. Winters has apparently been preparing for this bid for months. I picked up the file and looked at it again. In the original novel, the hero, Ethan Miller, was the one who won this land. He developed it into a luxury residential complex, made a fortune, and cemented his status as a rising star in the business world. Winters Enterprises, having lost this project on top of the earlier chip crisis, was pushed to the brink of bankruptcy. Sir, our proposal is the strongest. If we make a move, the land is practically ours, Peterson said confidently. I stroked my chin, thinking. No. I shook my head. We're not bidding. What? Peterson was floored. Sir, why? This is a golden opportunity. Listen to me, I said, motioning for him to calm down. I want to find a reliable shell corporation and have them bid for it. And make sure the price isn't too high, just enough to beat the Winters bid. And then what? Once we have the land, we do nothing. Just let it sit there, I said with a smile. We wait for the fish to take the bait. Though completely baffled, Peterson went to execute my orders without another question. He had developed an almost blind faith in me. The fish I was waiting for, of course, was Claire. Sure enough, when the auction results were announced, the city's business community was shaken. A tiny, unknown company had snatched the prize right out from under Winters Enterprises. Claire reportedly went pale on the spot. Peterson managed to get me a photo from the event. In it, she was wearing a sharp power suit, but it couldn't hide the shock and exhaustion on her face. Ethan Miller, standing beside her, looked equally grim. I bet they dug into that shell company's history, trying to find out who was behind it, and came up with nothing. They were getting desperate. Claire started frantically trying to contact the company's owner, hoping to buy the land at a premium. But she couldn't even find a real person to talk to. Just as she was about to give up, Peterson casually leaked a rumor to the press. The mysterious company seemed to have ties to Hayes Corp. The moment the news broke, Claire showed up at my door. I was in my gym, finishing a set of bench presses. Sophia was there too, sitting on a nearby yoga mat, stretching while sneaking glances at me. Peterson came in to announce Claire's arrival just as I finished my last rep. I sat up, sweat dripping from my chest onto the waistband of my shorts. Sir, Ms. Winters is here. She says it's urgent. I took the towel Sophia offered me and wiped myself down. Let her wait. I took my time, had a shower, changed into some comfortable loungewear, and then leisurely made my way to the living room. Claire was sitting on the sofa, her back ramrod straight. She had lost weight and had dark circles under her eyes. The moment she saw me, she shot to her feet, her expression a mix of resentment, anger, and the bitter humiliation of someone forced to beg. Landon, she said, her voice hoarse. I ignored her, walking straight over to Sophia and pulling her down to sit beside me. Have you been waiting long? Thirsty? I casually poured her a glass of orange juice. Sophia shook her head sweetly, her big eyes curiously studying Claire. Only then did I finally acknowledge Claire's presence, lifting my eyes with a lazy disinterest. Well, Ms. Winters, what brings you here? The feeling of being completely ignored made Claire's face flush with anger. She took a deep breath, clearly struggling to control her temper. Landon, we need to talk. About the Southport land. Land? I feigned surprise. What land? I don't know what you're talking about. Stop playing dumb. Claire finally snapped. I know it was you. What do you want? Is this your revenge? I laughed. Ms. Winters, you give yourself far too much credit. I took Sophia's hand, playing with her fingers. Right now, I'm busy spending time with my girlfriend. I don't have time for your little revenge fantasies. The word girlfriend was like a needle stabbing her right in the ear. Her eyes darted to our intertwined hands, her pupils constricting. Sophia seemed to sense the tension and instinctively leaned closer to me. I could feel Claire's breathing grow ragged. She stared at Sophia, her eyes filled with jealousy and scrutiny. Who is she? My girlfriend, Sophia Reed, I said, my tone dripping with a hint of pride. Isn't she cute? Sophia blushed again, burying her face in my shoulder. To Claire, That simple gesture was a declaration of war. Her pride, her arrogance was being ground into dust under my heel. Landon, you. She was so angry she was speechless. Ms. Winters, if there's nothing else, please see yourself out, I said, dismissing her. I don't entertain strangers here. You. Claire's fists were clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. She had probably never been treated with such contempt in her life. But in the end, she swallowed her anger. She had no other choice. Fine, she hissed. Name your price. I want that land. Not for sale, I said flatly. You. However, I changed my tune, watching her face, which was on the verge of exploding. This was amusing. It's not entirely off the table. What are your terms? She demanded immediately. I leaned close to Sophia's ear and said, just loud enough for Claire to hear, Babe, I'm getting hungry. I could really go for your tiramisu. Sophia paused, then understood. She smiled sweetly at me. Of course. I'll go make it for you right now. She stood up, and as she passed Claire, she even gave a polite little nod. One was pure and innocent, the other bitter and calculating. One was the treasure in my hands, the other was dirt on my shoes. The contrast was stark. After Sophia left, I turned my attention back to Claire. My terms are simple. I crossed my legs, leaning back into the sofa with an air of complete dominance. I want 30% of Winters Enterprises. The color drained from Claire's face. Are you insane? 30% would make me one of the largest shareholders in her family's company, giving me significant control. It was like asking for half her kingdom. You can always say no, I shrugged. I can just let the land sit there, let some weeds grow. It's a nice spot for it. Landon, don't push me too far. Push you too far? I let out a cold laugh. Ms. Winters, when you stood me up at our wedding in front of the entire city and made me a joke, did you ever stop to think that maybe you were pushing me too far? She was speechless. I'm not an ambitious man, but I do hold a grudge, I said, standing up and walking over to her. I leaned down, looking her straight in the eye. The amount of humiliation you caused me that day is the price you're going to pay today. It's only fair, isn't it? My voice was quiet, but each word was like a hammer blow to her heart. She stared at me, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. She probably never imagined that the man she dismissed as a spineless fool could have this side to him. You have 3 days to think about it. I straightened up, no longer looking at her. If you don't come back with the signed stock transfer agreement in 3 days, then we have nothing more to discuss. With that, I turned and walked toward the kitchen. Inside, Sophia was wearing an apron, concentrating on whipping cream. Hearing me approach, she turned and smiled. It's almost ready. In that moment, her smile chased away all the lingering negativity. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. Let me help. I took her hands in mine, guiding her. Sunlight streamed through the window, blanketing us in its warm, gentle glow. The woman in the living room, a ghost from a past I had already forgotten, felt a world away. I knew Claire would agree. She had no way out, and I was finally about to collect the first payment on her debt. Chapter 5, 3 days later, just as I expected, Claire returned with the signed stock transfer agreement. She looked even worse than before, as if a strong gust of wind could knock her over. After signing the final papers, she stared at me, her eyes filled with a bottomless hatred. You win, Landon. Are you satisfied now? I casually handed the documents to Peterson without a second glance. You're exaggerating, Ms. Winters. This was just a fair business transaction. I had no interest in talking to her further and had Peterson show her out. I didn't give her so much as a parting look. I knew that my complete indifference was more cutting than any insult. After acquiring 30% of Winters Enterprises, I didn't do much. I simply had Peterson send in a management team, ostensibly to assist, but in reality, to take over the company's finances and supply chain. Claire was completely sidelined, reduced to a figurehead CEO with no real power. The career she had been so proud of was now a gilded cage. Every day, she had to watch my people call the shots in her own company, and she was powerless to stop it. This slow, torturous process was far more satisfying than simply bankrupting her. With the Claire situation handled, my life returned to its peaceful rhythm. My relationship with Sophia continued to blossom. Her parents were now fully aware of me. Mr. Reed, Sophia's father, personally invited me to meet with him. He was a distinguished and formidable man, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through you. He never mentioned my scandalous, failed wedding or any of the rumors about me. We simply discussed the current economic climate and the technological promise of Apex devices. I didn't hold back, sharing my insights and predictions. The more I spoke, the more his eyes lit up with approval. Finally, he clapped me on the shoulder. The next generation is truly impressive. I can rest easy knowing Sophia is with you. That was his blessing. With her parents' approval, our relationship became even more public. I started taking her to the necessary galas and charity balls. Every time, she was the center of attention, and I was her ever-present guardian. I deflected every opportunistic businessman and slick young heir with a cold stare. My blatant favoritism became legendary in our social circle. Everyone knew that the once useless Landon Hayes was now completely whipped. He was aloof and dismissive to everyone except for the beloved princess of the Reed family, whom he doted on endlessly. At one event, some cocky rich kid had too much to drink and tried to flirt with Sophia, his words growing crude. "Sophia, what are you doing with this loser? Come with me. I'll show you a reel." He never finished his sentence. I smashed my whiskey glass over his head. Red liquor and blood trickled down his forehead. The entire ballroom went silent. The guy clutched his head, howling in pain. You hit me? Do you have any idea who my father is?" A cold smirk touched my lips. I didn't say a word, just pulled out my phone and sent a text to Peterson. Time for the Keenan group to fold. Then I took off my suit jacket, draped it over a startled Sophia, and wrapped my arm around her. We walked out of the party, leaving a sea of awestruck faces behind us. The next day, the rich kid and his father were on their knees outside my gate, begging for forgiveness. I didn't even grant them entry. After that, no one ever dared to disrespect Sophia again. The message was clear. Landon Hayes was not to be trifled with. I didn't care what people thought of me, but if anyone dared to touch the person I cared about, I would make them regret the day they were born. Sophia, in her own way, protected me too. In her circle of friends, she would praise me without reservation. "My Landon is the best. He's not a loser. He's a genius. He just can't be bothered to prove it to you all." She trusted every decision I made, unconditionally. Even if the whole world said I was wrong, she would stand by my side and tell me, "I believe in you." Being loved and trusted so completely by someone began to melt the ice that had encased my heart for years. I started to think that maybe marriage wasn't such a terrible thing after all, not if it was with her. So, on a sunny afternoon, I proposed. There was no grand ceremony, no ridiculously expensive diamond. In our garden, I spelled out, "Marry me," with her favorite white gardenias. I took her hand and got down on one knee. "Sophia, will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes, but her smile was brighter than the sun. She nodded vigorously. "Yes." We didn't tell anyone. The very next day, we went to City Hall and got our marriage license. Walking out of the building, the sun was warm on our faces. I stared at the 2 marriage certificates in my hand, a sense of unreality washing over me. Sophia was far more excited. She snatched one of the certificates from my hand, stood on her tiptoes, and planted a firm kiss on my cheek. "Husband," she chirped, her voice sweet and clear. In that instant, my heart felt completely full. I spun her around, pressing her against the wall of the building. I cupped the back of her neck and gave her a deep, passionate kiss. Passers-by smiled and chuckled. I didn't care. In that moment, all I wanted was for the entire world to know that this woman was mine. My wife. Legally. Officially. Chapter 6 married life was even sweeter than I had imagined. Sophia moved into my mansion, and with her came an army of adorable stuffed animals and cozy decorations that slowly transformed the house from a sterile, monochromatic shell into a warm, vibrant home. It finally had the feeling of a real home. My alarm clock was replaced by her soft kisses. I would open my eyes to see her smiling face, inches from mine. "Hubby, time for breakfast." She made me all sorts of breakfasts. Sometimes it was classic American pancakes and bacon. Other times it was something more adventurous she found online. It might not have been Michelin star quality, but it always had one essential ingredient: love. Our pets, my majestic Maine coon named General and her fluffy ragdoll, Cotton Candy, also got along surprisingly well. One was aloof and dignified, the other a needy furball, yet they were inseparable, acting more like newlyweds than we did. They would nap together in sunbeams and chase the same piece of string. Sometimes, General would even graciously offer cotton candy, one of his own fishy treats. Watching them, Sophia would often laugh and say, "See, even they've made it official." I would come up behind her and wrap my arms around her waist, resting my chin on her shoulder. Well then, maybe we should start doing the things that officially married people do. My hand would sneak under her shirt, resting on her flat stomach. Her body would meld into mine, her cheeks flushing. "Stop it. That tickles." Her voice was like a kitten's purr, driving me wild. I would sweep her up into my arms, ignoring her squeal of surprise, and carry her towards the bedroom. "Wifey, it's time we gave General and Cotton Candy a little brother or sister to play with." The hours that followed were filled with passion and intimacy. I found myself becoming addicted to our time together. She was like a magnet, and I was powerless against her pull. Just being near her awakened a primal urge within me. She was an eager, if inexperienced, partner in our escapades. She'd often end up a breathless, giggling mess, begging for mercy, only to try some new, seductive trick on me the very next day. She'd sneak into the shower and hug me from behind while I was covered in soap. She'd climb into my lap while I was trying to read a report, wrapping my arms around her waist. Every time, she knew exactly how to push my buttons. It was impossible to resist her. And before long, a wonderful surprise arrived. Sophia was pregnant. When the 2 pink lines appeared on the test, we both just stared at it, stunned. Then, an overwhelming wave of joy crashed over me. I was going to be a father. In this world, I was going to have a child of my own. I picked Sophia up and spun her around and around, laughing like a madman. She giggled, her head spinning. "Careful, careful. You're going to make our baby dizzy." I gently set her down, then knelt and pressed my ear to her still flat stomach. "Hey, baby, it's Dad." My voice was trembling. In that moment, a profound sense of responsibility and happiness filled my entire being. After the pregnancy was confirmed, Sophia became the queen of the household. Her parents practically moved in. I offloaded every last bit of company business onto Peterson. My world now revolved entirely around my pregnant wife. I researched countless pregnancy diets, creating new, nutritious meals for her every day. I went on walks with her, read to her, and massaged her swollen ankles. Her morning sickness was severe. She could barely keep anything down. It broke my heart to see her suffer. I started looking for any remedy I could find. When I heard that sour things could help, I had Peterson scour the globe for the world's best sour gummies and artisanal sour plums. The joy I felt watching her finally eat something without feeling sick was greater than closing a billion-dollar deal. The gossip mill went into overdrive. Landon Hayes, the story went, was now a full-time house husband. Some mocked me for having no ambition, for giving up my empire for a woman. Others envied me, saying I had found true love and was living the life every man secretly dreamed of. I scoffed at all of it. They just didn't get it. They couldn't understand the profound, quiet happiness that comes from watching the woman you love carry your child. This simple, warm reality was worth more than all the money and power in the world. And then, when our baby was 6 months along, someone I thought I would never see again reappeared. Chapter 7. That day, I was at a cafe with Sophia after her prenatal checkup. She was sipping a hot chocolate, a blissful smile on her face. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, bathing her in a soft, golden light. Her baby bump was prominent now, and she radiated a serene, maternal glow. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Suddenly, a familiar yet distant figure appeared at the cafe's entrance. It was Claire. She was wearing a trench coat, looking thin and pale. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were red and swollen. She looked like a wreck. She spotted us immediately. When her gaze fell on Sophia's pregnant belly, her entire body visibly flinched. She looked as though she'd been struck. Her lips trembled as she began to walk towards our table, one hesitant step at a time. Other patrons started to recognize her. After all, the wedding scandal 3 years ago was still the stuff of local legend. In an instant, all eyes were on us. I frowned. I didn't want this woman disturbing Sophia's peace. I stood up, positioning myself between her and my wife. Ms. Winters, it's been a while, I said, my tone ice cold. Claire didn't look at me. Her eyes were glued to Sophia. She's pregnant? She whispered as if in a daze. Yes. Is it yours? Whose else would it be? I retorted, finding her question ridiculous. My words were the final blow. Her composure shattered. Tears streamed down her face. Landon. She lurched forward, reaching for my arm. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. State your business, but don't touch me. My disgust was plain to see. Claire's hand froze in midair, and the last bit of color drained from her face. She stared at me, her eyes filled with pain and regret. I was wrong, Landon. I know I was wrong. Her words came out in a jumbled rush. Ethan, he was a fraud. He was using me the entire time. He took all the company's money and ran off with another woman. Winters Enterprises. It's about to go bankrupt. I have nothing left. Landon, I regret it. I truly regret it. I was out of my mind. I was so blind. Please forgive me. Let's start over. Let's get married. As she spoke, she collapsed, sinking to her knees in front of me with a soft thud. The cafe was filled with the sound of sharp, indrawn breaths. The once proud, untouchable Ice Queen, the powerful head of Winters Enterprises, was now kneeling before the man she had publicly humiliated, begging for scraps. The irony was thick enough to taste. I looked down at her, feeling nothing but a vague sense of amusement. This was the woman the original Landon had loved to the point of obsession? This was the brilliant, sought-after business magnate? Pathetic. I said nothing, simply watching her pathetic performance. Behind me, Sophia gently tugged on my sleeve. I glanced back and gave her a reassuring look. She was perfect. She didn't speak, just leaned against me, trusting me to handle it. Seeing my silence, Claire's sobs grew louder. Landon, please talk to me. I know you still love me. You're just angry with me, right? You did all those things for me. You have to love me. Buying my company stock, that was to help me secure my position, wasn't it? Crushing those people who disrespected me. You were defending my honor, right? Ms. Winters. I finally cut off her delusional monologue. I think you've misunderstood something. I looked down on her with pity. I bought your stock to collect on the interest for the public humiliation you put me through. I crushed those people because they were idiots who got in my way. As for loving you, I laughed, the sound full of derision. Claire, you really do have an overinflated opinion of yourself. From a moment you walked away from me 3 years ago, you became less than nothing to me. Every word was a dagger, twisting her heart. Her face went ashen. No, that's not possible. You're lying. You know I'm not. I was done with her. I turned and helped Sophia to her feet. Honey, the air in here has gotten stale. Let's go home. I tenderly adjusted her collar, my voice soft enough for only her to hear. Sophia gave me a sweet smile, then turned her head to look at the woman still kneeling on the floor. Her clean, clear eyes held no contempt, no triumph, only a calm, quiet distance. Ms. Winters, she said, her voice gentle but firm enough to carry through the silent cafe. It's best to leave the past in the past. My husband is very happy now. And we are very happy. She placed a hand softly on her own round belly. I hope you can find a way to move forward. With that, she took my arm, and we walked towards the door without looking back. Her posture, her simple action, was a final, undeniable declaration of her place in my life. It was the move that checkmated Claire's last, desperate fantasy. I could hear her broken, hysterical sobs behind us. But I didn't turn around. Not even once. Outside, the sun was bright and warm. I took off my jacket and draped it over Sophia's shoulders. Are you cold? Not at all. She shook her head, looking up at me with sparkling eyes. You were so cool back there, you know. Her comment made me smile. I gently tweaked her nose. You're just figuring that out now. I've always known, she said, snuggling into my chest contentedly. My husband is the coolest, most amazing man in the whole world. I leaned down and kissed her. She was right. Some things, once they're gone, are gone forever. Like a shattered mirror, they can never be made whole again. And I had already found my missing piece. The one that made me whole. My wife. My child. My peaceful, happy life. This was everything I ever truly wanted. As for that woman named Claire Winters, who was she? It didn't matter anymore.